Admiral Park Dae-ho stood in the center of the massive chamber, his hands clasped behind his back. The ceiling stretched so high above him that it disappeared into shadows. Around him, thousands of alien beings sat in curved rows that formed a perfect circle. Their eyes, tentacles, and other sensing organs all pointed at him. The Galactic Empire's High Council had never seen a human before. Most of them had never even heard of humans until 3 days ago. Park wore a simple black uniform, with no decorations. His gray hair was cut short, and his face showed the lines of someone who had seen too many wars. He looked small compared to the massive aliens around him, but he did not seem afraid. At the center of the chamber sat Emperor Vex Thari on his throne of living metal. The Emperor was 12 feet tall and made of what looked like purple crystal. Light moved through his body like electricity through glass. When he spoke, his voice sounded like breaking glass mixed with thunder. "So," the Emperor said, leaning forward on his throne, "the humans have finally come to surrender." Park shook, his head slowly. "No, Your Imperial Majesty, I have come to deliver a message." Laughter filled the chamber. It came from hundreds of different species and sounded like a zoo at feeding time. Some aliens barked, others chirped, and a few made sounds like grinding metal. Counselor Quindar, a snake-like being with 6 arms, slithered closer to Park. "A message? From a species that controls 12 tiny star systems? We control 10,000 systems across the galaxy. What message could you possibly have for us?" Park reached into his jacket and pulled out a small device. Immediately, a dozen weapons pointed at him from the Emperor's guards. Park ignored them and placed the device on the floor. "This message," he said calmly. The device projected a hologram that filled the entire chamber. It showed the galaxy in perfect detail. Every star, every planet, every space station glowed with soft light. Red dots marked Imperial military bases. Blue dots showed Imperial fleets. Yellow dots indicated important Imperial worlds. The hologram was perfect. It showed things that no outsider should know. It revealed secret bases that even most Imperial officials did not know about. It displayed the exact location of the Emperor's personal fleet, which was supposed to be hidden. The laughter stopped. "Impossible," whispered General Morgan, a creature that looked like a walking tank with too many legs. "How do you know these locations?" Park smiled for the first time since entering the chamber. "Because we have been watching you for a very long time." Emperor Vexathari stood up from his throne. The living metal flowed around him like water, but his crystal body blazed with angry light. "You dare to spy on the Empire?" "We do what we must. To protect ourselves," Park replied. "And to protect others." He gestured to the hologram. Red sections began to glow brighter, showing Imperial slave worlds, prison planets, and species that had been conquered and broken. For 800 years, the Galactic Empire has spread across the stars like a disease, Park said. His voice was quiet, but it carried clearly through the silent chamber. "You take what is not yours. You enslave those who cannot fight back. You destroy entire civilizations for sport. We bring order to chaos," the Emperor said. "We unite the galaxy under one rule." "You bring only suffering," Park replied. "And now it ends." The hologram changed. Now it showed just the human star systems, tiny specks compared to the vast empire. But around each human world, new dots appeared. Thousands of them. Tens of thousands. "What are those?" demanded Counselor Quindar. "Our ships," Park said simply. "Impossible!" General Morgan slammed one of his many fists on his control panel. "Our scouts report only a few hundred human vessels in total." Park turned to face the general directly. "Your scouts see what we want them to see." The chamber erupted in angry voices. Aliens shouted in dozens of languages. Some demanded that Park be killed immediately. Others wanted to know if this was some kind of trick. Emperor Vexathari raised one crystal hand, and silence fell like a blanket. "Even if this display is real," the Emperor said slowly, "you are still vastly outnumbered. Our fleets number in the hundreds of thousands. Our armies are countless. What could you possibly hope to accomplish?" Park reached into his other pocket and pulled out a second device. This one was smaller, just a simple black cube. He held it up so everyone could see it. "This is a quantum resonance transmitter," he said. "When I activate it, every human ship in the galaxy will receive the same signal at the exact same instant." He paused and looked around the chamber, meeting the gaze of as many aliens as he could. "That signal will be either peace or war. The choice is yours." Counselor Quindar laughed, but it sounded nervous now. "And what exactly do you want?" Park's expression became deadly serious. "Release every enslaved species. Withdraw your forces to your original home systems. Disband your military. Allow the galaxy to govern itself freely." The chamber exploded in outrage. Aliens jumped to their feet, waved weapons, and screamed insults in languages Park did not understand. But he stood perfectly still in the center of it all, waiting. When the noise died down, Emperor Vexathari spoke in a voice like ice cracking. "And if we refuse?" Park looked directly into the Emperor's crystal eyes. Total annihilation. The silence that followed was absolute. Even the background hum of the space station's systems seemed to fade away. "You threaten us?" the Emperor asked quietly. "No," Park replied. "I warn you, there is a difference." He held up the black cube again. "Humanity has tried to stay hidden. We have avoided contact with the Empire for 2 centuries. We hoped you would eventually learn to be better than you are, but you have only gotten worse." Park began to walk slowly around the chamber as he spoke. "We watched you destroy the Kalari homeworld because they refused to mine toxic crystals for you. We saw you turn the Yethrin into living computers because you thought it was amusing. We recorded you hunting the pilot whales of Serenity Station for sport." With each example, more aliens in the chamber shifted uncomfortably. Some looked away. Others began to whisper among themselves. "Every crime you have committed has been witnessed," Park continued. "Every atrocity has been recorded. Every act of cruelty has been judged." He stopped walking and faced the Emperor again. "Humanity has decided that the galaxy has suffered enough, General." Morgan activated his weapons systems. "You speak of crimes? Humans are a primitive species that barely learned to fly between stars. You have no right to judge the Empire." Park smiled again, but this time it was not a pleasant expression. "We learned to fly between stars 400 years ago, General. What we learned next was much more interesting." The hologram changed one final time. It showed a detailed technical display that none of the aliens could understand. Strange equations filled the air, along with diagrams of devices that looked impossible. "Humanity's greatest achievement was not faster-than-light travel," Park said. "It was learning how the universe really works at the smallest level. We discovered how to change the rules that hold reality together." Dr. Kim So-Ra's voice suddenly filled the chamber, transmitted from Park's ship. "Emperor Vexthari, this is Dr. Kim So-Ra of the Terran Research Division. The equations you see before you describe quantum foam manipulation. We can alter the fundamental forces that hold matter together." Park nodded. "We can make your ship stop existing, not destroyed, simply erased from reality as if they were never built. We can make your weapons forget how to fire. We can make your armor forget how to be strong." The Emperor's crystal body began to pulse with rapid light patterns, a sign of extreme agitation in his species. "This is impossible," he said. "No species has such power. No species has needed such power before," Park replied, "but the Galactic Empire forced us to develop it." He raised the black cube higher. "I will ask one final time. Release the enslaved. Withdraw your forces. Allow freedom to return to the galaxy. You have 24 Earth hours to decide." "And if we refuse?" Counselor Quindar asked. Park's expression became completely emotionless. "Then we will demonstrate what total annihilation means. And after that demonstration, if you still refuse, we will show you that humanity keeps its promises." He pressed a button on the side of the cube. "Dr. Kim, please transmit the coordinates for the demonstration target." "Coordinates transmitted," came the reply. "The uninhabited Zeta-7 system, as discussed." Park looked around the chamber one last time. 24 hours, Emperor. Choose wisely." Without waiting for permission to leave, Admiral Park Dae-ho walked toward the exit. The guards did not try to stop him. As he reached the door, he turned back. "Oh, and your Imperial Majesty? We know about your plans to attack our colonies while I am here. Our message to your fleet commanders will be very simple. Try it, and find out what happens when humanity stops being patient. The massive doors closed behind him with a sound like thunder. In the chamber, thousands of the most powerful beings in the galaxy sat in complete silence, staring at the space where one small human had just changed everything. Emperor Vexithari stood alone in his private chamber, staring out at the stars through a massive window. His crystal body flickered with angry red light. Behind him, the holographic display still showed the impossible knowledge that the human had revealed. A soft chime announced someone at the door. "Enter," the Emperor commanded. General Morgan rolled into the room on his many mechanical legs. His tank-like body was covered in scars from 100 battles. "My Emperor, the War Council is assembled." "Good." Vexithari turned away from the window. "And what do our intelligence officers say about the humans' claims?" "They cannot explain how the humans obtained our classified information," Morgan replied. "But they insist the threat is impossible. No species has the technology the human described." The Emperor's light flickered faster. "Impossible or not, that human knew things that should have been secret. We cannot ignore this." They walked together through the corridors of the massive space station. Other aliens they passed immediately bowed or stepped aside. The Emperor's presence filled the hallway with an electric tension that made everyone nervous. The War Council chamber was circular, with a raised platform in the center. Dozens of military leaders from different species stood around the edges. Each one commanded fleets that could destroy entire star systems. Admiral Korthvex, a being that looked like a walking spider made of metal, spoke first. "My Emperor, I have reviewed the humans' data. Their information about our fleet positions is accurate to within meters. This suggests extensive surveillance." "Or spies," added Commander Ythara, whose species looked like living shadows. "Perhaps some of our own people have betrayed us." General Morgan activated a holographic display in the center of the room. It showed the 12 human star systems, looking tiny and isolated. "Regardless of how they obtained their information," he said, "the facts remain simple. They control 12 systems. We control 10,000. They have shown us locations, but not weapons. They have made threats, but not attacks." Counselor Quindar slithered into the chamber, his 6 arms gesturing wildly. "The humans spoke of ships we cannot see and weapons that break the laws of physics. This sounds like the desperate lies of a weak species trying to avoid conquest." "Perhaps," the Emperor said slowly. "But there is an easy way to test their resolve." He gestured, and the display changed to show detailed star charts. "General Morgan, I want you to assemble the largest fleet in Imperial history. Draw ships from every sector. Show these humans what real power looks like." "How large a fleet, my Emperor?" 50,000 ships. Representatives from every species in the Empire. Make it clear that anyone who defies us faces total destruction." Morgan's mechanical body hummed with pleasure. "It will be done. Which human world should we target first?" "All of them," the Emperor replied. His crystal body blazed with bright light. "I want simultaneous attacks on every human colony. If they truly have these magical weapons, they will use them to defend their homes. If not, we will teach the galaxy what happens to those who threaten the Empire." Admiral Korthvex raised one metal leg. "My Emperor, should we attempt to capture the human technology first? If their claims are real, we will take their secrets from the wreckage of their worlds," Vexithari said coldly. "Begin fleet assembly immediately. I want attacks launched within 6 hours." Meanwhile, across the galaxy on the planet Earth, President Li Jinwu sat in an emergency meeting deep underground. The bunker had been built 2 centuries ago when humanity first encountered the Empire. Now it might be their last refuge. Around the table sat the leaders of humanity's greatest institutions. Director Choi Min-ho of Human Intelligence looked tired but alert. Captain Nam Yu-jin, who commanded Earth's orbital defenses, tapped nervously on her tablet. Dr. Kim So-ra appeared, on a holographic display, transmitting from Admiral Park's ship. "Report," President Lee said simply. Director Choi activated a 3-dimensional display showing the galaxy. Red dots were moving throughout Imperial space, ships gathering into massive fleets. "The Empire is mobilizing everything," he said. "Our sources report fleet movements from over 300 systems. They're not just planning to attack us, they're planning to make an example of us." Captain Nam leaned forward. "Sir, our long-range sensors show Imperial ships already moving toward our outer colonies. The first attacks will begin in less than 4 hours." President Lee turned to the holographic image of Dr. Kim. "Doctor, are our preparations complete?" "Yes, Mr. President," she replied. "The seeds of silence have been in position for over 50 years. Every major Imperial installation, ship, and base has been tagged. We can activate them at any time." "And the evacuation?" "Complete as of 2 hours ago," Captain Nam reported. "All civilian populations have been moved to the shelters. Our outer colonies appear empty to Imperial sensors." Dr. Kim's expression became serious. "Mr. President, I must remind you, once we activate the seeds, there is no going back. The galaxy will know what humanity is capable of. We will become either liberators or conquerors in their eyes." President Lee stood up and walked to a window that showed the Earth's surface far above. Cities sparkled with lights, while orbital defense platforms hung in the sky like metal stars. "Director Choi," he said without turning around, "how many species are currently enslaved by the Empire?" "Our best estimate is 412 confirmed species, with possibly hundreds more we don't know about." "And how many innocent beings die under Imperial rule every day?" Choi checked his tablet. "Conservative estimate? Approximately 2 million per standard day." President Lee turned back to face the table. "Then we have already waited too long." He looked directly at Dr. Kim's image. "Doctor, please prepare Protocol Exodus." "Yes, sir." "Captain Nam, are our defense grids ready?" "All Earth defense platforms are operational, Mr. President. But if the Empire brings their full fleet here—" "They won't," President Lee said confidently. "After today, they'll have other concerns." In space above Earth, Admiral Park's ship received a coded transmission from the planet below. Park read the message and nodded to his communications officer. "Send a message to all human vessels," he ordered. "Execute Phase 1 of Operation Liberation. All ships are to reveal themselves and take positions around their assigned Imperial targets." "Sir," the communications officer said, "the Imperial fleets are much larger than expected." "Are you sure about this?" Park smiled grimly. "Lieutenant, send the message exactly as written, and add this: today, we stop hiding." Across the galaxy, something impossible began to happen. Near every major Imperial base, space seemed to shimmer and twist. Ships appeared from nowhere, sleek human vessels that had been hiding using technology the Empire didn't understand. But these were not the few hundred human ships that Imperial intelligence had reported. There were thousands of them. Tens of thousands. They surrounded Imperial positions like wolves circling prey. On the bridge of the Imperial flagship Dominator, Admiral Korthvex stared at his sensors in disbelief. "This cannot be accurate," he said to his tactical officer. "The readings show over 30,000 human ships in our sector alone." "Sir, I've run diagnostics 3 times. The sensors are functioning perfectly." Korthvex activated his communications system. "All Imperial vessels, report enemy contact." The replies came flooding in from across the galaxy. Every Imperial fleet, every base, every important installation reported the same thing. They were surrounded by human ships that had appeared from nowhere. In the Galactic Council chamber, Emperor Vexathari received the reports with growing alarm. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "Our intelligence said they had only a few hundred ships." "Our intelligence was wrong," General Morgan admitted reluctantly. "But it doesn't matter. Even 30,000 ships cannot match our fleet of 50,000. We still have the advantage." "Then attack," the Emperor commanded. "Destroy them. All." But before the Imperial fleets could move, every human ship in the galaxy transmitted the same message simultaneously. "This is Admiral Park Dae-ho of the Terran Defense Fleet. Your Emperor was offered peace. He chose war. The responsibility for what happens next rests with him alone." Dr. Kim Sora's voice followed immediately. "All Imperial forces, you are now surrounded by our vessels. We do not wish to harm you, but we will defend ourselves. Any Ship that powers weapons will be considered hostile. Emperor Vexathari's crystal body blazed with fury. They dare to dictate terms to us? General Morgan, order all fleets to attack immediately. My Emperor, Admiral Korthvex's voice came over the communications system. The human ships, they're not just surrounding us. They're moving through our formations as if our shields don't exist. Our weapons can't get a target lock. Impossible. On Earth, President Lee watched the tactical displays with Dr. Kim. The Imperial fleets were trying to attack, but their weapons passed harmlessly through the human ships. Phase cloaking technology, Dr. Kim explained. We can exist slightly, out of phase with normal matter. Their weapons simply can't touch us unless we want them to. And our weapons? We can phase back into normal space to attack, then phase out again immediately. To them, it will look like magic. President Lee nodded. Begin the demonstration. In the Kepler sector, the Imperial base on Fortress Station was the first to witness humanity's true power. Captain Kang Hyun-soo stood alone in the abandoned communications center on New Busan. The human colony world was completely empty now. Every person had been evacuated 3 days ago, leaving behind only empty buildings and silent streets. Through the tall windows of the broadcast station, Kang could see the Imperial fleet approaching. 5,000 massive warships filled the sky, their hulls black against the stars. They came expecting a fight, but they would find something much more terrifying than resistance. Kang activated the planetary communications system. His voice would reach every ship in the Imperial fleet, and through them, every corner of the galaxy. I am Captain Kang Hyun-soo of the Terran Defense Fleet, he began, his voice calm and steady. I am the only human remaining on this world. The Imperial Fleet Commander's response came immediately. Human vessel, you will surrender immediately or be destroyed. Kang smiled sadly. There is no human vessel here, Admiral. Only me, and a message that must be delivered. He walked to the center of the broadcast room, where cameras would record his words for history. Behind him, holographic displays showed the approaching Imperial ships growing larger by the minute. Citizens of the galaxy, Kang continued, today you will witness something that has never happened before. The Galactic Empire was offered peace. They were shown mercy. They were given a chance to choose a better path. The Imperial fleet began to spread out, surrounding the planet. Weapons charged, preparing to turn the surface into glass and ash. They chose war, Kang said simply. What you are about to see is not revenge. It is not conquest. It is consequence. High. Above the planet, Admiral Korthvex commanded the Imperial fleet from his flagship. His metal spider-like body clicked nervously as he studied the sensor readings. Sir, his tactical officer reported, the planet shows no military installations, no defense platforms, no ships. Just that one human in the broadcast station. Then this will be simple, Korthvex replied. Target the broadcast station. End this foolishness. But before he could give the order to fire, space around his fleet began to shimmer. Human ships appeared from nowhere, not just dozens or hundreds, but thousands. They materialized inside the Imperial formation as if they had been invisible all along. Impossible, Korthvex whispered. How did they get so close without being detected? On the planet below, Captain Kang watched the tactical display. The human fleet has revealed itself, he announced to the galaxy. 30,000 ships, all equipped with technology your empire cannot understand or detect. The Imperial fleet tried to target the human ships, but their weapons couldn't lock on. The human vessels seemed to exist slightly outside of normal space, visible but untouchable. Admiral Korthvex, came a transmission from the lead human ship. This is Commander Yoon Tae-ho. You have 10 seconds to power down your weapons. We do not surrender to primitives, Korthvex snarled back. Then you will learn, Commander Yoon replied. Captain Kang's voice filled the airwaves again. What you are about to witness is a demonstration of humanity's true capabilities. We call this technology quantum erasure. We have learned to manipulate the fundamental forces that hold matter together. Dr. Kim So-ra's voice joined the broadcast from her laboratory ship. The devices you see activating around your ships are called Seeds of Silence. For 50 years, we have been placing them throughout Imperial space. They appear to be simple space debris, but they are actually sophisticated machines. Across the galaxy, in every system controlled by the Empire, small objects that had drifted unnoticed for decades began to glow with soft blue light. They had been dismissed as asteroids, comets, or space junk. Now, they revealed their true purpose. These seeds, Dr. Kim continued, can rewrite the quantum structure of matter. They don't destroy objects. They convince the universe that those objects never existed in the first place. Emperor Vexthari, watching from his throne world, felt terror creep through his crystal body. This is impossible. No species has such power. But the demonstration was about to begin. Captain Kang raised his hand and cameras focused on his face. The Empire has enslaved 412 species. It has destroyed countless worlds. It has caused suffering beyond measure. Today, that ends. He lowered his hand. Across the galaxy, seeds of silence activated simultaneously. The effect was immediate and precise. Imperial ships simply ceased to exist, not destroyed by weapons or torn apart by explosions, but erased from reality as if they had never been built. The demonstration targeted exactly 1% of the Imperial fleet. 500 ships vanished in an instant, their hulls, engines, and weapons disappearing into nothingness. But the crews inside found themselves safely aboard human vessels, alive and unharmed. Above New Busan, 50 Imperial ships simply stopped existing. One moment they filled the sky with their threatening presence. The next moment, there was only empty space where they had been. Admiral Korthvex stared at his sensors in disbelief. His tactical display showed gaps in his formation where ships had been just seconds before. "Where did they go?" he demanded. "Sir," his tactical officer said in a shaking voice, "they're just gone. The sensor logs show they were there, and then they weren't. No explosion, no debris, no energy signature. They simply ceased to exist." Captain Kang's voice continued. The broadcast. "The ships that have vanished contain 12,000 Imperial personnel. All of them are now safe aboard human vessels. We do not kill our enemies. We save them from their own leaders." Dr. Kim's technical explanation followed. Quantum erasure technology allows us to selectively remove objects from the quantum foam that underlies all reality. The ships no longer exist, but the people inside were transported to safety nanoseconds before erasure. The effect rippled across the galaxy. Every species that had suffered under Imperial rule watched in amazement as the impossible happened. The mighty Galactic Empire, which had seemed invincible for 800 years, was made to look helpless by a species most had never heard of. On the mining world of Kepler-7, the enslaved Kalari stopped their forced labor to stare at the sky. The Imperial Guard ships that had kept them prisoner were simply gone. In the underwater cities of Aquatica Prime, the Murhai watched their Imperial overseers panic as their control vessels vanished. On 1,000 worlds, beings who had lived in chains began to whisper that freedom might be possible. But the demonstration was not over. Captain Kang activated a second set of controls. "The Empire has 60 minutes to respond to our original demands. Release all enslaved species, withdraw to your home systems, disband your military forces." New holographic displays appeared around him, showing the locations of every major Imperial installation in the galaxy. "If our demands are not met," he continued, "we will demonstrate what total annihilation means." The displays began to flash red, marking targets across the Empire. Military bases, weapons factories, slave labor camps, and command centers all appeared as glowing dots. "We know where everything is," Kang said simply. "We have been watching you for 2 centuries. Every ship, every base, every secret installation has been cataloged and targeted." Dr. Kim's voice added the technical details. "We have placed seeds of silence at every strategic location in Imperial space. Your entire military infrastructure can be erased in a matter of minutes." Emperor Vexthari stood up from his throne, his crystal body blazing with panic. "This cannot be real! No one has such power!" But his own military officers were confirming the impossible. General Morgan's report was devastating. "My Emperor, we have lost contact with installations in over 300 systems. All report the same thing. Imperial ships and bases are simply vanishing. How many lost?" the Emperor demanded. Exactly 1% of our total military strength, Morgan replied. But the pattern suggests they could have destroyed everything, if they chose to. Captain Kang began walking through the empty streets of New Busan as he continued his broadcast. The cameras followed him, showing the peaceful colony that the Empire had come to destroy. "Look around you," he said to the Imperial fleet still orbiting overhead. "This is what you came to attack. Homes where families lived, schools where children learned, gardens where people grew food. You came here to turn all of this into ash and glass." He stopped in a small park where children's playground equipment sat empty in the sunlight. For 800 years, the Empire has brought only death and suffering to the galaxy. You have conquered not to unite, but to dominate. You have enslaved not to build, but to destroy. Admiral Korthvex, still in orbit above the planet, found himself strangely moved by the human's words. He had never thought about the lives that Imperial conquest destroyed, but humanity offers something different, Kang continued. We offer freedom, not the freedom to obey us, but the freedom to govern yourselves, to live as you choose, to be what you were meant to be. The broadcast reached every corner of the galaxy. Enslaved beings watched in wonder. Imperial citizens began to question their government's actions. Even some Imperial military officers found themselves reconsidering their loyalty. Captain Kang looked directly into the camera. "The choice is simple, Emperor Vexithari. Accept our terms and live in peace. Refuse, and discover what happens when a truly advanced species decides that the galaxy has suffered enough." He raised a small device, similar to... The effect was immediate and electric. Across the galaxy, on worlds where beings had lived in chains for generations, something impossible was happening. Hope was spreading like wildfire. On the mining world of Kepler-7, a Kalari named Vesh looked up from the toxic crystal mine where he had worked for 20 years. The Imperial Guard ships that normally watched from above were gone, simply erased from existence by the human demonstration. For the first time since childhood, the sky belonged to him and his people alone. "Brothers," he called to the other miners, "the guards are gone, all of them." Word spread through the tunnels like an echo. Kalari workers emerged from the depths, blinking in sunlight many had not seen in years. The Imperial overseers tried to maintain control, but they were vastly outnumbered without their ships to support them. By nightfall, Kepler-7 was free. The same scene played out on hundreds of worlds. The aquatic Merhai of Oceanus Prime used their natural advantages to sabotage the underwater Imperial facilities. Without air support, the surface-dwelling Imperial forces found themselves trapped and helpless. On the forest world of Greenleaf, the tree-dwelling Sylvani simply vanished into their canopy cities, leaving the Imperial bases isolated and abandoned. The occupying forces discovered that controlling a world was impossible when the entire population refused to cooperate. But the most important uprising began in the Nexus sector, where Commander Seo Jae-min commanded a small fleet of human ships. The Nexus was different from other Imperial territories. It was a crossroads where trade routes from dozens of systems met. Beings from hundreds of species lived and worked there, creating a complex society that the Empire had never fully controlled. Commander Seo received her orders directly from Admiral Park. Support the local resistance movements, but do not conquer. Liberation must come from within. Seo's ship, the Liberation, dropped out of hyperspace near Nexus Station. The massive space platform housed over 10 million beings from across the galaxy. Most were slaves, workers, or refugees who had nowhere else to go. "Commander," her tactical officer reported, "we're detecting multiple uprising across the station. The Imperial garrison is requesting reinforcements." And their reinforcements? 3 Imperial cruisers were supposed to arrive an hour ago. Our long-range sensors show they've been erased. SEO smiled grimly. The human fleet was systematically removing Imperial military assets while leaving civilian infrastructure untouched. It was precise, surgical, and terrifying in its implications. "Open a channel to all frequencies," she ordered. "Channel open, Commander." "Citizens of Nexus Station." Seo's voice carried across the space platform. "This is Commander Seo Jae-min of the Terran Liberation Fleet. The human demonstration you witnessed was real. Imperial military control of this sector has ended. Chaos erupted across the station. In the residential sectors, enslaved beings began overpowering their guards. In the commercial districts, alien merchants who had been forced to pay tribute to the Empire declared their independence. In the industrial areas, workers shut down the weapons factories that supplied Imperial fleets. But the most important response came from someone unexpected. "Human vessel," came a transmission from the station's command center. "This is Administrator Kelth of the Hegemony. I wish to negotiate." SEO raised an eyebrow. Administrator Kelth was known throughout the sector as one of the Empire's most loyal servants. His species, the Hegemony, had been among the first to join the Empire voluntarily centuries ago. "What do you wish to negotiate, Administrator?" "Surrender," Kelth replied simply. "My garrison cannot control the station without Imperial fleet support. But I have 10,000 Hegemony civilians aboard this platform. I want your guarantee that they will not be harmed." It was exactly the kind of moment that defined humanity's approach to liberation. SEO could have demanded unconditional surrender or threatened to destroy the Imperial forces. Instead, she chose a different path. "Administrator Kelth, humanity has no quarrel with the Hegemony people. We understand that many species joined the Empire out of fear rather than choice. Your civilians will be protected." "And my soldiers?" "Any Imperial personnel who lay down their weapons will be treated with dignity and return to their homeworld safely. We are not here to punish the soldiers. We are here to end the system that created the need for soldiers." What followed was unprecedented in Imperial history. An entire sector, hundreds of worlds, billions of beings, simply declared independence from the Empire in a single day. And they did it without the humans firing a single shot in anger. But the ripple effects went far beyond local uprisings. Emperor Vexithari stood in his war room, watching reports flood in from across the galaxy. His crystal body pulsed with increasingly frantic light patterns as each new message brought worse news. "How many sectors have we lost?" he demanded. General Morgan consulted his tactical displays. 47 sectors have declared independence. Another 30 are in open revolt. And the humans, they're not conquering anything. They're just supporting local resistance movements. "What do you mean?" "They provide defensive technology and transportation, but they don't occupy worlds or install governors. They liberate systems and then leave them alone to govern themselves." The Emperor's light patterns became chaotic. "This makes no sense. What do they gain from this?" "I don't think they want to gain anything," Morgan replied slowly. "I think they actually mean what they said. They want freedom for everyone, not conquest for themselves." On the bridge of the Liberation, Commander Seo was coordinating with resistance leaders across the sector. Her tactical display showed green zones spreading across the galaxy, areas where Imperial control had collapsed and free governments were emerging. "Commander," her communications officer called, "we're receiving a priority transmission from Admiral Park." Admiral Park's image appeared on the main screen. Behind him, the bridge of his flagship was busy with activity. "Report, Commander Seo." "Liberation." "Proceeding ahead of schedule, sir. The Nexus sector is now completely free of Imperial control. Local resistance movements are coordinating their own operations with minimal support from us." "Casualties?" "Remarkably light, sir. Most Imperial forces are surrendering rather than fighting. Word is spreading that we treat prisoners well and return them safely home." Park nodded approvingly. "The Empire is discovering something they never expected, that their own people don't really want to fight for them when given a choice." "Sir, I'm also detecting some unusual activity in the core sectors. Several Imperial species are requesting direct communication with human representatives." "What kind of communication?" SEO checked her console. "Formal requests for protection, sir. They're afraid of what the Empire might do to them if they try to leave." Park's expression became thoughtful. "Patch me through to Dr. Kim." Dr. Kim Sora's image joined the conversation from her research vessel. "Admiral? Doctor, we need to accelerate the timeline. The Empire is starting to turn on its own people. How quickly can we deploy defensive shields around civilian populations?" "We can begin immediately," Dr. Kim replied. "The seeds of silence can be reprogrammed to create protective barriers around non-military targets. Any Imperial ship that tries to attack civilian populations will find their weapons simply won't function." "Do it," Park ordered. "And send a message to Emperor Vexathari. Tell him that humanity now protects any species that requests our aid." Meanwhile, in the deepest levels of the Imperial Palace, Emperor Vexathari was meeting with his inner circle. The mood was desperate. "The humans have turned our own people against us," Councillor Quindar hissed. "Species that have been loyal for centuries are now demanding independence because they no longer fear us," General Morgan said bluntly. "The human demonstration proved that we are not invincible. Our own subjects now see us as we really are, bullies who can only rule through force." The Emperor's crystal body blazed with fury. "Then we will use more force. Order all remaining fleets to begin bombarding rebellious worlds. If we cannot rule them, we will destroy them." "My Emperor," Admiral Korth Vex's voice came over the communication system, "I must report that such attacks are proving impossible." "What? Do you mean impossible?" "The humans have deployed some kind of defensive technology around civilian populations. Our weapons simply do not function when aimed at non-military targets. We can still attack human military vessels, but anything else is protected." The Emperor stood silent for a long moment. Then he spoke in a voice like breaking ice. "They're not just defeating us militarily, they're making us irrelevant." Dr. Kim's voice suddenly filled the chamber, transmitted on all Imperial frequencies. "Emperor Vexathari, this is Dr. Kim Sora. As of this moment, humanity officially extends protection to any species requesting our aid. Any attempt to attack civilian populations will be met with immediate intervention." The transmission continued. "To all Imperial citizens, you are free to choose. You may remain loyal to the Empire if you wish, but you are also free to leave. Humanity will provide safe passage to any being who desires freedom. To all Imperial military personnel, you are welcome to return to your home worlds with full honors. We bear no grudge against soldiers who were following orders. Our quarrel is with the system, not the individuals trapped within it." Commander Seo watched from T. The first world to die was Serenity Station. It had been a peaceful agricultural world where the gentle pilot whales grew floating gardens in the sky. They were artists and philosophers who had never harmed anyone, but they had declared independence from the Empire 3 days ago, and Emperor Vexathari had decided to make an example of them. The Omega Protocol weapons were different from anything the galaxy had seen before. They didn't just destroy cities or kill populations. They burned entire planets down to the core, leaving nothing but dead rock floating in space. General Park Sung-ho, Admiral Park's younger brother, watched the sensor readings from his command ship with growing horror. He was humanity's military commander, a man who had seen the worst of war, but what he witnessed at Serenity Station made him physically ill. "Sir," his tactical officer reported in a shaking voice, "the planet's surface temperature has risen to over 3,000 degrees. All life signs have ceased." Park Sung-ho stood in silence for a moment, staring at the tactical display. Where a beautiful blue and green world had existed just hours before, there was now only a glowing ball of molten rock. "How many?" he asked quietly. "Approximately 40 million beings, sir. All dead." The general closed his eyes. When he opened them again, they held a cold fire that his staff had never seen before. "Communications. Get me Admiral Park immediately." His brother's image appeared on the screen within seconds. Admiral Park's face was grim, showing that he had received the same reports. "Sung-ho, I know what you're thinking. They crossed the line," General Park said simply. "The Empire just committed genocide against a peaceful species. They burned an entire world to make a point. I know, but we must be careful how we respond. If we escalate—" "Brother," the general interrupted, "they just murdered 40 million innocent beings. Artists, teachers, children. The pilot whales never hurt anyone in their entire history. And Vexathari killed them all to send a message." Admiral Park nodded slowly. "What are you requesting?" "Permission to activate the final protocol." The silence that followed stretched for several seconds. Both men understood what that meant. The final protocol wasn't just about erasing ships or bases. It was about fundamentally changing the nature of reality itself in Imperial space. "Are you certain?" Admiral Park asked. "Once we activate it, there's no going back. The Empire won't just be defeated. It will become impossible." "They've made their choice," General Park replied. 40 million dead, and the reports say they're targeting more worlds. This isn't war anymore, it's extermination, and I won't allow it to continue. Dr. Kim So-ra's voice joined the conversation from her laboratory ship. Gentlemen, I must remind you of the risks. The final protocol will alter the fundamental constants of physics in Imperial space. Their technology will cease to function, but we don't know all the long-term effects. Doctor, General Park said coldly, what are the long-term effects of allowing the Empire to burn entire worlds? Dr. Kim was quiet for a moment. Point taken. I'll begin the preparations. Across the galaxy, the seeds of silence began receiving new programming. For 50 years, they had been simple surveillance devices. Then they had become weapons of selective erasure. Now they were becoming something far more dramatic. Tools to rewrite the fundamental laws of physics themselves. The first Imperial world to experience the final protocol was the military fortress of Dominion Prime. It was a heavily fortified planet covered in weapons factories and military academies. No civilians lived there, only soldiers and the machines of war. As the final protocol activated, reality itself began to behave strangely on Dominion Prime. Gravity became variable, fluctuating between crushing weight and weightlessness. The electromagnetic force that held circuits together became unreliable, causing all Imperial technology to fail randomly. The strong nuclear force that held atomic nuclei together began to weaken in specific patterns, making Imperial weapons impossible to maintain, but organic life continued unchanged. The Imperial soldiers found themselves breathing normally, thinking clearly, but completely unable to use any of their advanced technology. General Morgan received the first reports while standing in the Emperor's war room. His mechanical body, which had served him faithfully for decades, began to malfunction as the effects spread. "What is happening?" he demanded, his voice distorting as his artificial vocal cords failed. Emperor Vexithari's crystal body was flickering wildly. The humans. They're doing something to the laws of physics themselves. Dr. Kim's voice filled the chamber, transmitted on all frequencies. This is Dr. Kim So-ra of the Terran Research Division. The Empire has chosen to commit genocide against peaceful species. In response, humanity has activated the final protocol. Technical displays appeared throughout Imperial space, showing impossible equations and diagrams. The final protocol alters the fundamental constants of physics in localized areas, Dr. Kim explained. Imperial technology relies on specific electromagnetic and nuclear properties. We have changed those properties in Imperial space. Your weapons will not function, your ships will not fly, your computers will not calculate, but organic life will continue unchanged. You can live, but you cannot make war. General Park Sung-ho's ship appeared in orbit around Dominion Prime. The massive human vessel moved through space using principles that still functioned in the altered physics zone. This is General Park Sung-ho, his voice carried across the dying Imperial fortress. Imperial forces on Dominion Prime, your weapons and vehicles are now permanently disabled. You have two choices: surrender and be evacuated to a safe world, or remain here and learn to live without technology. The response came from the planet's surface, not from the military commanders, but from ordinary soldiers. General Park, a young Imperial trooper's voice, crackled over the radio. This is Private Yethlos of the 3rd Imperial Legion. My squad, we want to go home. We never wanted to burn planets. That's not what we signed up for. We're receiving similar transmissions from across the planet, Park's communications officer reported. The common soldiers are ready to surrender, but the officers are ordering them to fight. Patch me through to all Imperial personnel on the planet, Park ordered. Channel open, sir. Imperial soldiers, Park's voice carried across Dominion Prime. This is General Park. I know that many of you are good people caught in a bad situation. You joined the military to protect your families and serve your species, not to commit genocide. He paused, letting his words sink in. Any soldier who wishes to return home will be given safe passage. You will be returned to your families with full honors. You are not our enemies. You are fellow beings trapped by the same system we are fighting. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Across Dominion Prime, Imperial soldiers began laying down their weapons and calling for evacuation. They had seen what happened to Serenity Station, and they wanted no part of the Empire's new genocidal tactics. But in his palace, Emperor Vexithari was beyond reason. His crystal body blazed with insane light, as he watched his empire crumble. If we cannot rule, then nothing will survive, he raged at his remaining council. Activate the Omega Protocol on all rebellious worlds. Burn them all. My Emperor, Counselor Quindar said nervously. Our weapons systems are failing across the Empire. The final protocol is spreading to more systems every hour. Then use the ones that still work. Destroy everything. But even as he gave the orders, Vexathari knew it was hopeless. His empire was dissolving not through conquest, but through irrelevance. His subjects were choosing freedom, his soldiers were going home, and his technology was becoming useless. On Earth, President Li Jinwu addressed the planet from the Global Assembly. Citizens of Earth, he began, today we face a choice that will define humanity's future. The Galactic Empire is committing genocide against innocent species. They are burning entire worlds to maintain their failing power. He gestured to displays showing the spread of the final protocol across Imperial space. Our response has been swift and decisive. We are not destroying the Empire through violence. We are making it impossible for them to continue their crimes. Imperial technology now fails to function, but Imperial people remain safe. However, this action will mark humanity as the most powerful species in the galaxy. Some will fear us. Others will expect us to become the new rulers. We must choose our path carefully. President Li looked directly into the cameras. Humanity's goal is not to rule the galaxy. It is to ensure that no one can ever again enslave entire species or burn worlds for political power. We will help establish a new order based on freedom and cooperation, not conquest and fear. Meanwhile, General Park Sung-ho was overseeing the largest evacuation in galactic history. Millions of Imperial soldiers and civilians were being transported from worlds where the altered physics made modern technology impossible. Sir, his aide reported, we're receiving cooperation from unexpected sources. Several high-ranking Imperial officers are helping coordinate the evacuation. Which officers? Admiral Korthvex is leading the evacuation of the Spiral Arm fleets. General Morgan has ordered all hegemony forces to cooperate with our rescue operations. Even some members of the High Council are requesting safe passage for their people. Park nodded. The Empire's leaders are finally seeing the truth. Their system. 3 months after the final protocol activated, Admiral Park Dae-ho stood on the observation deck of his flagship, watching the last Imperial evacuation ships depart from the throne world of Valdris Prime. The massive planet that had once been the center of galactic tyranny was now just another world, its reality-altered surface making advanced technology impossible. Below on the planet's surface, Emperor Vexathari waited with the final group of Imperial loyalists. His crystal body had lost most of its glow, but he stood straight and dignified as the human transport ships landed nearby. Admiral, came Dr. Kim Sora's voice over the communication system. The Emperor is requesting to speak with you before departure. Put him through. Vexathari's image appeared on the screen. Behind him, the empty throne room looked strange without its floating displays and humming machinery. Only organic furniture remained functional in the altered physics zone. Admiral Park, the Emperor said quietly. I wanted to thank you. Park raised an eyebrow. Thank me? For showing mercy to a species that showed none. For evacuating my people when you could have left us to die. For treating us as beings worthy of life, even after everything we had done. The Emperor paused, his dim crystal body flickering slightly. I spent 800 years believing that strength meant the power to destroy. You taught me that true strength is the power to save, even your enemies. Where will you go? Park asked. My people have been offered a place on Sanctuary 7. It's a small world, but it will be enough. We will learn to live simply, without the need to rule others. Vexathari managed something that might have been a smile. Perhaps we will even learn to be happy. Emperor, one final question. Do you regret anything? Vexathari was silent for a long moment. I regret that it took an external force to make me see what we had become. I regret that billions suffered because I believed power was more important than mercy. But I do not regret losing to you, Admiral. You saved the galaxy from us, and you saved us from ourselves. The transmission ended, and Park watched the transport ships lift off, carrying the last remnants of the Galactic Empire to their new home. It was a quiet end to 8 centuries of tyranny, not with explosions or grand battles, but with former emperors learning to tend gardens. Captain Nam Yu-jin approached from the bridge. "Sir, we're receiving the final reports from all sectors. The evacuation is complete." "Casualties?" "Remarkably light, sir. Total fatalities from the entire operation, fewer than 50,000, mostly from accidents during the reality alterations. Compare that to the Empire's typical casualties from a single planetary conquest." Park nodded. It was still too many deaths, but it was a miracle that overthrowing a galactic empire had cost so few lives. And the refugees? All Imperial personnel have been safely relocated to suitable worlds. Most chose to return to their home systems. Surprisingly, about 30% have requested to stay and help with the reconstruction efforts. "The reconstruction efforts?" Captain Nam smiled. "Sir, you need to see this." She led him to the main tactical display, which now showed the entire galaxy. Instead of the red Imperial zones and small pockets of resistance that had existed just months ago, the display was filled with green zones marked Free Worlds Alliance. "It's spreading faster than we projected," Nam explained. "Species that have been enemies for generations are choosing to work together. Former Imperial colonies are forming mutual defense pacts. Trade agreements are being signed between worlds that have never trusted each other before." Director Choi Min-ho's voice came over the communication system from Earth. "Admiral, you need to hear this transmission we just received." A new voice filled the bridge, one that Park didn't recognize, but which spoke in heavily accented but understandable English. "This is Chancellor Vorith of the Kalari Federation. On behalf of 47 liberated worlds, we formally request membership in what we are calling the Free Worlds Compact. We offer our mining expertise and industrial capabilities in exchange for mutual defense and shared technology." Another voice followed immediately. "This is Prime Minister Kel Shan of the Merhai Republic. Our underwater cities and aquaculture, technology are at the service of the free worlds. We seek partnership, not charity." The transmissions continued for several minutes, species after species, world after world, all requesting not protection but partnership. They wanted to contribute to the new galactic community, not simply benefit from it. "How many applications have we received?" Park asked. "Over 800 systems as of this morning," Director Choi replied. "And they're not asking us to rule them. They're asking to help rule themselves collectively." President Lee Jin-woo's image appeared on the main screen, transmitting from the Global Assembly on Earth. "Admiral, we need to discuss humanity's role in this new galaxy." "Mr. President, the Free Worlds Compact is proposing to establish a new galactic government, not an empire ruled by one species, but a true democracy where every world gets a voice. They want to offer humanity a special role, not as rulers, but as guardians." Park frowned. "Guardians? Protectors of freedom itself. They want us to be the species that intervenes when others try to build new empires. The ones who make sure that what happened with the old empire never happens again." It was a staggering responsibility. Essentially, the galaxy wanted humanity to become the police force that prevented any species from ever becoming too powerful. And our response, President Lee smiled, "We're putting it to a vote. Every human colony, every space station, every ship. This decision affects all of humanity, so all of humanity gets to choose." Dr. Kim Sora's face joined the transmission from her research vessel. "Admiral, I have the technical reports on the reality alterations. The good news is that we can reverse the changes to Imperial space whenever we choose. The physics will return to normal, and their technology will function again. And the bad news?" "No bad news, sir. The alterations are completely reversible. We can give them their technology back, but with built-in safeguards. Any attempt to use it for conquest or oppression will cause it to fail automatically." Park was quiet for a moment, processing the implications. Humanity had not just defeated an empire, they had created a new form of galactic civilization, one where tyranny was literally impossible. "Sir," Captain Nam said softly, "there's one more transmission you should hear." The voice that came over the speakers was young and filled with hope. This message is for Admiral Park, from the children of Serenity Station Memorial School. Park's blood chilled. Serenity Station had been destroyed by the Empire's Omega Protocol. There should be no children there. We are the sons and daughters of the pilot whales who died when the Empire burned our world. We were off-world at the time, saved by human ships that evacuated us before the attack. We want you to know that we do not hate the Empire. We do not seek revenge. We seek to make sure that no other children ever lose their families the way we did. The young voice continued. We are studying to become teachers and healers and artists, just like our parents. We will rebuild our culture, but we will also help other species rebuild theirs. This is how we honor our dead, by creating more life, more beauty, more hope. Thank you for saving us, Admiral. Thank you for saving everyone. The transmission ended, and the bridge was silent. Park felt tears running down his cheeks, something he had not allowed himself to do since the war began. Sir? Captain Nam asked gently. Set course for Earth, Park ordered. It's time to go home and help build this new galaxy. 6 months later, the first Free Worlds Assembly convened on Nexus Station. Representatives from over 1,000 species gathered in the Great Hall that had once housed Imperial propaganda displays. Now it was filled with beings who had chosen to work together rather than dominate each other. Commander Seo Jae-min, who had been promoted to ambassador, stood at the podium to deliver humanity's address to the assembly. Fellow beings, she began, 6 months ago this galaxy was ruled by fear. Species fought each other because they believed it was the only way to survive. Worlds were conquered because conquest was seen as strength. She gestured to the diverse crowd before her. Today, we gather not as conquerors and conquered, but as equals. Not as master and slave, but as partners in building something that has never existed before, a truly free galaxy. Humanity accepts the role of guardian, but only with conditions. We will intervene to prevent new empires, but we will not make decisions for other species. We will provide advanced technology, but we will not control how it is used. We will protect freedom, but we will not define what freedom means for each world. The response was thunderous approval from hundreds of different species, each expressing joy in their own way. The old galaxy was ruled by one emperor. The new galaxy will be ruled by all of us, together. Later that evening, Admiral Park walked through the observation gardens of Nexus Station with his brother, General Park Sung-ho. Around them, beings from dozens of species tended to plants from their homeworlds, creating a garden that represented the diversity of the new galaxy. Do you think it will work? The general asked. A galactic democracy with 1,000 different species? Admiral Park watched a group of Kalari children playing with young Merhai in a specially designed pool that accommodated both land and water dwellers. Look around you, he said. 6 months?